You can do it.
All right, this is the workshop for the Harbor and Waterfront Committee with the Aquaculture Working Group to discuss the recommendation for water classifications plan to the Select Board. So let's go around and introduce ourselves again.
I am Samantha Bohan.
Darcy Kuchar.
Billy Saxon.
Matt Gilly.
Jerry Lehman.
Jay McCray.
Paul Kimber, Town Harbor Master.
Rose Price.
Jack Dodge.
Phil Connor.
Philip, Jack, Mose, Jerry, and myself are on the Harbor and Waterfront Committee. So this is our meeting here, and the working group just met to kind of recommend to send the water classifications plan that was approved at the town vote yesterday, to send it to our committee. And it's in your packet. You guys have this packet. You have one, Philip?
I don't have a hard copy, but
I got an extra one.
So this is going to be on page 4, and it's essentially a memo to the Select Board from the Harbor and Waterfront Committee requesting a change to the water classifications plan. Paul, you want to add anything to this, or no? Basically, it's the same thing that we met last month. We kind of all talked about it, and any input from anyone?
I've asked this question and I have been answered, but I'll ask it again. What is this? Is this it's a plan, but it's not an ordinance, or it's not something you have to comply with, it's a guideline?
You want to take that, Paul?
So it's a non-regulatory map, so it is meant as a tool, a guiding tool. Whereas before, staff and the committee were treating it as more of, as law, because that's the way we understood it. And if you remember, there was an aquaculture application that came in that we denied based on the previous mapping. That eventually got appealed. So now the town attorney has looked at it as a non-regulatory map or a tool, and it's spatial planning is what it is. Think of it that way. It's the easiest way to kind of describe it. We're planning for the future of personal waters.
And that's not good. And then what do you expect the uses to be, the beneficial uses to be?
Hey, we're having fun.
The idea behind the whole thing was, specifically when aquaculture came to the town, the harbor master reviews it, and it kind of stops there. We would bring it to the harbor committee. We started to bring it to the harbor committee, as you know.
It starts there too, so it doesn't.
Well, before that, it didn't. We just had it come to the harbor master per statute. We very quickly learned that one person should not be making all the decisions based on aquaculture. So we started bringing it to the harbor committee, and then this aquaculture work group was formed. And as you know, we've asked the harbor committee to tackle the waters classification plan, and it was just so burdensome. We could never get anything accomplished because of the wharfs, just because everything else that was always coming down the line. So this tool it's taken everyone's opinion who wanted to participate into consideration. And any decision that's made now will go through committee review, staff review, and also ultimately be guided through this document. So it's a multi-layer spatial planning tool.
And also, it will be going to the new group as well, correct? It will not be going to the Harbor and Waterfront Committee.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
this kind of like, we're saying, we recommend it, but we also recommend it to go to this new group that's forming in July?
Yeah.
June?
July. Well, it will be formed at the next select board meeting. We'll create the actual group. We've already accepted the mission statement. We're accepting applications, and we'll make appointments at the next select board meeting on June, what did we say, 26th? And then the first meeting of the new group will be July 9th at 5 p.m. And they'll start using that map with if there's any new leases, new wharfs, they'll kind of use that map like Paul and Billy said as a tool, like, for example, if somebody's coming in with a lease, and they want to put it in area X, but we look at that map and we say, oh, well, look, there's lobster fishing, there's pogie fishing, and there's oyster fishing there. Then we can say, look, there's already 3 fisheries taking place here. This might not be a good area, but if you move a quarter mile to the north, none of those fisheries are happening in this spot. So that would be a better spot for you.
I understand. Do you think, or does it already, does it say, the classification plan, does it say this that we just talked about? And I'm sort of saying this as
Look,
trying
Page
to
5.
document it somewhere that, what it is, so somebody that
we
will know how to use it.
Well, we added a description under the water for classifications definitions there, which will be the next page in your packet, the Type 5 waters. And that kind of speaks to what that new layer is on the map. Let me read it real quick. It doesn't really talk, I guess, about how it will be used, per se.
But staff will direct that. I mean, Paul is really the leader in this, and he kind of directs the applicant to, this is what we're doing, this is how we go
Put a
forward
little
with it.
forward in there of what you just said a while ago in a tenth as many words. I think it would be beneficial.
It's not different from the 4. It's an addition of a 5th area to more accurately reflect the use of waters.
Well, my question is, it doesn't ever tell you what the document actually is, and so is it an ordinance? Do you have to do it this way, or do you use this as a guide to figure out where to request?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the final decision is not the towns, it's the states, because it's state water and state regulations, but the town has input on lease applications or license applications, and has the opportunity to. The last meeting we had somebody come about an application, and like I said before, the magic happened and the group talked about, this site doesn't look great, how about over here? And they'll make their application, but the state's the one that approves it.
What would you request if you came in to ask about this? I mean,
It's like a pre-application process,
okay.
so that it's to avoid problems going forward and to help people find the best spot for what they want to do.
I understand that, but it seems to me like this thing is not described what it actually is, so if somebody wants to utilize it, you look at on a list of documents, I wouldn't pick this off as something that would help me decide where I would need to be.
I think also it might help that once we get through the process of it being adopted and approved by the town, the goal is to have an interactive map available on the town website, so that might be room for a little more description of, here's everything that happens in Harpswell, and then you can look at where are all the wharfs and piers, where are the moorings, where are the fishing areas, and it's meant to kind of help guide activities and uses that way. It's informational, it's just explaining like what's here in Harpswell, and then whoever might need to use that. Right now it's aquaculture, but it could also be
Wharfs.
Somebody wants to put a wharf in, someone's planning a charter fishing business and want to figure out where to target, where they go for that. It's just explaining what is here in Harpswell, and then people can use that information for a variety of purposes.
But I guess what Philip is saying is that there's nowhere in the town website or in this form or anywhere that says these are the tools to use. And I think, like I said, I think the town staff are really direct that, but maybe we want to put something on the Harbor Waterfront Committee page or on your page that says, tools available for wharves and aquaculture, maybe to kind of, I think Philip's making a good point. Yeah, these are the things that are available to you to find out what's going on in town, and, because that's what we want people to use this. I mean, we put a lot of effort into it, so that's a good point, Philip.
I got a
Even
question.
more convoluted. There's statute that says that towns can establish rules and regulations. So what we've done in the past, so go back before this vote, it was, you put the classifications in ordinance, the types of waters, I should say. And then under statute, that's what gives the selectmen, in this case, the authority to make those rules that can be changed without a town vote, but at a select following that guideline, even though it's considered non-regulatory, this is where Amanda Ellis, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but Amanda Ellis of the Department of Marine Resources, she was the aquaculture director, is the aquaculture director, said that she believes that any work that a town does to this level will hold possibly a lot of weight when it comes down to the decision. So that's why we've tried to stick to statute, put it in ordinance, and then do this rules and regulations, even though we don't actually enforce anything with it.
But this is a guideline.
It's a guideline, yeah.
So if it's a guideline, that
Yep.
would be no problem.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's a great point, Philip.
When, I don't know the answer to this, maybe Sammy or Darcy or you, Paul, can answer this. When somebody is applying for an aquaculture lease, at any point in time, are they directed to like the town website to complete any of that application? You get what I'm kind of asking? Like, is there a way that we could, when they're kind of filling out their application, that we could get it so this map kind of popped up for them in the application process in the town of
So
Harpswell?
the leasing process, we are fixing that, right? So we're gonna have them come to a pre-application meeting.
Right.
Before it even gets submitted to DMR, it's gonna come before the New Fisheries Committee. The LPAs, the only thing that's different is they have to submit a payment to the town before the town harbor master will even review it. So at that point, they could kind of, the clerks could hand these papers saying, before you pay, would you like to go to the committees and
Yeah.
and work this out and make sure that it's suitable for everybody?
I think that would work the best for the applicant and the committee, you know, so then the applicant's not wasting their application fee applying for something that we can very quickly say, no, this isn't gonna work based on this map, you know, so
But they're still coming to you regardless.
yeah,
And then the only thing I guess you would save them is they wouldn't have to come back twice. So if you sat with them once, guided them where they want to be, and an agreement that if they go where you've all agreed, then they don't have to come back to the next meeting, I guess. So it would save some time, I guess.
Yeah.
for them.
yeah,
There- Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's
there
all
may-
I was trying to do, save time and money for people.
And there may be some applications that take a few times, to figure it out. I might not figure it out one meeting, and that's okay, and
Yeah.
that group will meet every month. But it's really the town staff that directs that stuff, so.
I think that's a good idea, what you mentioned, though, maybe when they come in to fill out their application, that could be something that the town clerk hands to every applicant, is the definitions and at least a link, go to the site for an interactive map,
Right. And to save time, the working policy that we've kind of had within the town for staff is we will not sit down with the applicant until they've paid that fee, because we were, at one point, we were just so inundated
Yep.
with applications, we couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
So hopefully that gives them some homework to go review, and then once they submit it, we'll sit down and we'll bring it forward to the committee.
They might not even have to, though, if
They
they
may
do
not.
it, their due diligence, and review it, they might answer a lot of their own questions on their own,
Right.
hopefully.
If I'm remembering correctly, when Amanda Ellis was here from DMR, we asked about, can you, put our maps on the site? Can you direct people? And the answer I remember is, no, we can't put the maps on. She thought we could, but we couldn't. But they would hopefully direct people, but I don't know how many times she said, you have a time frame when you can put your recommendation or your suggestions or objections in, but you have to be within that time frame. Because ideally, just what Matt said, this saves time and money. And the town recommendations have weight with the state, but the state makes the final decision. So we're trying to make sure people have all the information they can have.
I think catching them at the clerk's office is gonna catch most people, and we can
Yeah.
also, once there is an actual website to point them to, it's easier to access. We can also share this information with the aquaculture groups and make sure they push the word out.
Yeah.
And
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
can help get it out there, and then it'll just kind of
Yeah.
grow from there, but I guess the next job will be to make the interactive map if everything's approved.
Yeah.
That's my list.
And I think, just as far as the Harper and Waterfront Committee is concerned, I think the goal going forward is to update the map every year. And I think the working group, the fisheries group will probably be the lead on that, Paul, am I right? But obviously, the Harbor and Waterfront group will be using this map for, if we end up doing piers or moorings or whatever else comes our way, but it definitely is something we're gonna wanna use. So it will be updated every year as things change, as climate changes, as fisheries change. So I think that's a good thing.
I think it can be the way we did it too, it can be updated more frequently than a year if it needs to be
Yeah.
too, because the more, if something major changes in the middle of the year, you know, we can make a change and then pass it on to the select board and they can approve the change, instead of having to wait a full year for a
Right.
town meeting or something.
Yep.
So it's living, breathing thing that can be changed on the fly.
Are there any members of the public that would like to participate? Any more questions from the Harbor and Waterfront Committee or the working group? No? Should we take a vote, Paul?
We are, the,
Our work group took a vote.
yeah,
So now the Harbor and Waterfront Committee needs to take a vote.
You do what your regular schedule.
So we don't do it now.
you're gonna wait 10 minutes.
You said we could just roll right into it. Well, should we close the workshop then?
If you're done, yeah.
Is there any other input from anyone that'd like to speak or say anything on this? I'll take a motion to close the workshop.
I'll make a motion to close the workshop.
Do I have to read something?
No. Any more
Second.
discussion?
Word quick.
Take a vote. All right. We're good on that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mary Ann.